Welcome me to the world of ACOTAR and every other book in this series. I have been very late to this train. I know of these books, but I have yet to read them. And today we're gonna start the journey together. I am going to read them. This will be probably containing spoilers, this reading vlog, and I want to take y'all along for the journey. I have the book on Kindle. Special thanks to my twin Heather for that. And if you want to see a little bit more about what I'm reading for the rest of the year, head over to Lunarette. I'll link it down below. That's a joint channel that I have with my twin where we're doing life together long distance. We don't live close to each other right now. And we've been using this YouTube channel as a way to share topics with each other, and one of them has been reading. So that's where this idea to read this book came from, as well as just realizing it's probably time I just dive in and read it. So what do I know about A Court of Thorns and Roses? Nothing. So we're up to speed there. I genuinely know nothing. So I've got my book, I've got my water, I've got my backdrop, and I've got this book to read, so let's do it. Although, I have to say, going this long without experiencing this series, I feel like somehow I just feel like I need to get a little more prepared for it. So give me just a second. I feel like I'm ready to go into a forest. I switched out my water cup for a earthen water bowl. Wow, it's just like it's fresh from the stream. And now, oh wait, what's this? This doesn't belong in that world. Oh my gosh, I'm excited. Henceforth, I can no longer say I'm foreign to this book. I will be part of this conversation now. Shocked to learn that fairies are supposedly dangerous. I was not expecting that. I was genuinely I don't know, going into it, or fairies being mentioned. Initially I thought that was Tinkerbell or Bauble from Tinkerbell. I'm picturing these adorable little tiny things, and in this book, in this world, they're terrifying apparently. So that kind of freaked me out. I was schooled in her name pronunciation. It's Feyre, and it says it in the book. I didn't know if that would be up for interpretation. My twin told me it wasn't up for interpretation, but I was really holding on to the fact that it could be up for interpretation. It is not. So her name is Feyre. I think her family just sucks. Oh, and I also wondered if from chapter 2, if white paint would be significant later on in the story. Because it keeps mentioning how she doesn't have white paint for certain things. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. If my appearance is disheveled, it's just been a long day. Children of the Blessed. Ridiculous name. Great name for a cult, though. They worship the High Fae, but the High Fae are bad guys. Iron is dangerous to fairies. Should I be saying fairies? I can't bring myself to say that. Silver is nice for fairies. It's gonna be really hard for me to not picture fairies as just tiny. Yeah, apparently they're tall, creepy, immortal, shape-shifting, brutal things. And we open chapter 4 with, I just said, holy cow, what is this thing? The description of it, oh my gosh, I think it's gonna take me a minute to get there. But the first thing that came to mind, and now the only thing that's coming to mind, when it describes this thing, this specific thing is those alpha memes of wolves, wolfmen, howling at the moon, on t-shirts, or I don't know. The beast had to be as large as a horse, and while his body was somewhat feline, his head was distinctly wolfish. I didn't know what to make of the curled elk-like horns that protruded from his head. But lion or hound or elk, there was no doubting the damage his black, dagger-like claws and yellow fangs could inflict. I'm like, is he upright? Does he walk on all fours? He's got paws. He has fangs. He has claws. Wolf-like face. Body is feline, but large as a horse. Okay, so I'm thinking he's on all fours. Furry? Is he not furry? Is he dark colored? Is he light? I also thought it was super, super funny that fairies can't lie. I do not understand why he would offer her, like, an out. Like, why would he be nice to her and, like, let her come live on his lands in the, like, supposedly super nice kingdom? At least as far as I can understand. Her answer to his question made sense because she kind of, like, reasons out why she has to go in the end. She can't just decide to, like, take the punishment of, like, execution on the front porch because she promised her mom on her deathbed that she would take care of the family. And so she's thinking, if I lead him away all the way back up to his homeland and kill him there, then he's away from my family and I'm not going to die on the front porch. Why did that happen? She decides, you know what? I'll go. Screw you, dude. Then her dad says, like, a really touching goodbye. He tells her, like, you're the best of all of us. We don't deserve you here. And then he's like, by the way, if you survive, don't come back here ever again. So she's on her way up to Prithian with this mysterious thing. She's been led to a horse. They have to leave right there and then. She's not allowed to pack. She just puts on some clothes. And then he knocks her out, I think, with magic. Yes, I said magic equals metallic smell, which I thought was cool, like, to associate it with that. He puts her in a magical coma for 2 days. Interesting. There were rifts in the warded wall separating our lands, holes big enough for those lethal creatures to slip into our territory to amuse themselves with tormenting us. My theory is that she's grown up hearing these cautionary tales of Prithian, but it's all lies, and I bet they're, like, actually, like, cool, like, they're good. And maybe the Children of the Blessed cult is not a cult at all, but they're actually, like, truthers. I don't know, I'm just wondering if she's gonna get there and be, like, super surprised that... Yeah. So different from what I expected. Oh my gosh, I was not expecting where we're at now. So, what's happened? Let's see. I know so much more about the world now. I understand it better. I know there's different types of fairies. There's a lot more fairies that have been introduced. He put, like, a glamour over her when she was there so that she couldn't see what was actually going on the whole time, which I thought was really cool. Like, that's interesting. I thought the blue fairy that unfortunately doesn't make it, that they kind of try to tend to at the house, is, like, really cool sounding. That, like, stuck out to me. And their relationship is developing, of course. Kind of saw that coming, of course. Like, that makes sense. But, this bonfire night, I was so thrown off. Yesterday was when I got to that part, and I was just telling Hayden about it, and I was like, I can't believe this is this book. I can't believe this is this world. This is the rules of this world. This is the reality that this author has made for her world. And yeah, it was interesting. The whole gig is that she has been spared for some reason by this high lord, the king of the land. She's in, like, the southernmost crappy state of the country as a human being. And this high lord, from Springtime World or the Spring Court comes to like collect the debt for his friend's life that she took, and the debt paid is her life in exchange for his, to come and live with him in like luxury. That part, forgive me if I'm not like grasping this stuff correctly or fully, which I'm sure I will, but that part still confuses me. Like, he was so pissed off at her when they first meet, when he like bursts in the door as this like animal thing, and then now he like brings her back and he's like super polite and super like chivalrous and super like pursuing of her and understanding, and like always trying to like temper things to like be gentle with her, at least in my interpretation of everything. And then spends springtime with him, and then like out of the blue it's announced that bonfire night is the thing, that once a year this High Lord, the animalistic king that he is, who defends his own borders and was too powerful for his own good, so there was competition with his dad and his brothers, and his dad and his brothers sucked, and they're all dead now. This bonfire night comes up where he has to go and kill a stag in the forest, and then come back to this like ritualistic bonfire, the fairy rite, or what is it called? The great rite that they perform, where he chooses a female to have with in a cave, and the magic generated from that act is supposed to feed or like grow or generate their crops for the next year. He has to chase down his maiden. Once he picks his maiden to have his way with her in this cave that everybody's like booming on the drums are like intoxicating supposedly, like then everybody else, once he's picked his person, everybody else is free to go and pick their person, and they just all have out in the open, and that is their that's how they like feed the crops. That's their fertilizer. And the like disclaimer made is like, oh, he's gonna let magic enter his body tonight, so he won't even know his own name. Like, you better be careful, because our protagonist is this human woman. I don't know what her like size is in comparison to everything, because she like sneaks into this bonfire night. She's told to stay away basically because she can't handle it, but I'm like, what is her size like is this like a human avatar situation? Obviously not, because she's able to blend in somewhat, kind of not, when she sneaks into the bonfire night. But I was picturing her being like, like average height, 5'7", 5'6", 5'9", whatever, and that the fairy people were like extremely tall for human beings, but not like uncanny tall to where they're like 9 or 10 feet. I thought they were like 6 foot and up, like that was their like beginning height, and then average from there like 6'5". I just can't tell. Not that that matters, but it as soon as I read the part where she's like sneaking into this bonfire night, I thought she was going to keep her distance and try to figure out what's going on, but she just like jumps into the crowd. And I was like, how the heck would she not be like picked out like a sore thumb, like right from the beginning? But I'm sure that there's like crazy variances within the heights of fairies, I'm guessing. I don't know, because it's then later revealed that fairies don't look like humans, I guess. Like, a lot of them look a lot more interesting than you'd think. Like, I think her, like, the person, the lady who, like, tends to her is named Alice or Elise. And she has, like, I don't know if I read this right, so forgive me. I'm just going off of memory here and, like, once over. Did she have tree bark skin? Like, she looked like a tree? And so Feyre doesn't recognize her once her eyes have been opened to like the world that they're in. Yeah, anyway, all that to say, that really threw me for a loop. So I was talking Hayden through it, and he was like, wow, this is crazy. And I was like, I know. So many other types of fairies are encountered. Like Surreals sound really cool to me. The Nagas, all I could picture for the Nagas was like Venom. Is that his name? The other type of Spider-Man? Venom? That's what I pictured. Oh, then we meet, who do we meet? I don't think they tell you his name, but it's like some dude from the Night Court. I'm guessing he's from the Night Court. Let me find my notes on that. It's like she's at the bonfire night as a little human lady, and then she gets pinned or like grabbed by these guys, these fairy guys, and they're like, LOL, we're gonna have fun with you, because she has no idea that the whole point of the night is to have a giant orgy. So they're like kind of freaking her out a bit, and then this like tall, dark, handsome dude like saves her from their interaction, and he sounds like trouble or something. What did I say? I think I said emo hot stranger somewhere. Yeah, I'm guessing he's from the Night Court. That's my guess. I forgot to say this. Tamlin comes back from his night out because she sneaks in, she's brought back, and then she goes to bed because she's supposed to, or whatever. She stays in the castle. But then she like gets up in the middle of the night once the drums stop pounding, and she like wants to get a snack or whatever and then go paint, I think. And then Tamlin stops her in the hallway, and he doesn't sound like himself. And they like end up in the corridor, and he's like pinned her against the wall, and he bites her neck and is like super like forward with her. And then the next day he's like back to normal, I guess. Or is he? Yeah, I was like, wow, that's the vehicle in this world, in this literary story, for gentleman and animal. Like, he's both. And I guess she gets to enjoy all aspects of that, I'm guessing, in the future. I don't know. We find out that the Night Court is terrifying. The blight's getting worse. He can't quite perform his magic as well as he used to. He takes her on a gallery visit, which is really cute. He offers to help her write a letter. There's a point where I think she's having like a grand old time. She's kind of forgotten her woes, I guess. She's gaining weight because she's not so hungry anymore. She's asked him for paint so that she can paint, and so she's kind of like not going back and forth, but just going day to day. Hobbies, walks, gardens, whatever, beautiful things. And she like wakes up one day and walks outside, and she feels like a southern wind kind of warm her as she's walking, and she realizes like, oh snap, like that means down south, like down at home, it's like springtime. I can feel the warmth coming up from the south, because where she lives now is like always spring, I'm guessing. They don't get change of seasons, but back home they do. And so she feels this warmth breeze over her, and it kind of just like ruins the mood. Like it bursts the bubble, I guess, for her, as far as like being in this like fairy tale honeymoon phase with her new surroundings. Like, I always feel like I go through these phases of like, I'm good, until suddenly I'm not. Like, sometimes I don't even know how to explain it to myself or how to like work through it myself. And I can pinpoint the reasons behind why I'm upset about something, and I could like talk about it all day long, but sometimes it's like, that's not going to make it any better. You're just kind of like, your mood just gets spoiled sometimes. And so I liked this detail. Like, it just felt very relatable to me. And then later on at dinner, I think Tamlin and Lucian realize like they can tell she's off, and they're kind of just like not pushing anything with her. And after dinner, she goes into a garden, I think, to walk around, and Tamlin follows her, and he's being really nice, really comforting. He's like telling her that her problems like matter to him or whatever. And there were two parts of that stuck out to me that three maybe, but we'll get to them. as she's kind of like working through this like a frustration, not with him, but in front of him, she like rips a rose out of a bush. And I was like, that is so me. Like, sometimes I feel like when I'm upset or like I'm not having a good time, I just, like, whatever it is. And then he's being super nice, super like calm. And at one point, he says something to her that's nice. I can't remember. But she was like, why? Like, why? Why are you? She doesn't even elaborate. She just says, why? And I like that too, because it reminds me of myself. Like, sometimes I feel like at a certain point when I'm upset, I don't even hear myself anymore. I just start thinking out loud, like truly stream of consciousness. I'm just thinking out loud. And it's less so about the answer someone gives to me, because they kind of just happen to be around while I'm processing something out loud. And I think she also like throws the rose into the bush. And I'm like, I love these behaviors and these words right now in this specific scene because it just is so relatable to me. I think it's not like my ears get cupped when I'm upset, but to some degree, I cannot even hear myself. And it's not like I can't hear myself because I'm being so over the top in my reaction. It's more so like my brain is just going, that anything that comes out of my mouth is just pure internal made external. So I thought that was a really cute scene where she like has this moment and he doesn't back down from it or like cower. He actually like meets her in it. There's a lot of this book that reminded me of Twilight as well. So in chapter 18, he decides to take her on a road trip. They go on a field trip because the night before, this beautiful blue velvet fairy with its wings ripped off doesn't make it. And it's just sad. And she like holds his hand and like stays with him after everything is said and done. And I thought that was really sweet too, because that reminds me of like a time in my life when I think Tamlin asks her why she does it. And she's like, because I'd want it done for me. Like, I'd want someone to hold my hand. And I'd want them to stay for a little longer after as well. And it reminded me of, like, how it's felt to experience death and to sit with something. To not just leave immediately once it's over, but to stay a little bit longer. That was the experience I had with one of my animals. And it was, I don't know, I wouldn't change it. It was super sad. And it was painful, but I wouldn't change it. So I liked that moment too. Like, it felt very lovely to see that humanity in her, like that characterization, I guess. But the next day, after this sad thing happens, and they've talked about it, they decide to take a field trip. Her, Tamlin, and Lucian. I think this is when he shows her like a glen or like a field. And all I could think about was Twilight, when they find this open field in the forest, her and Edward, Bella and Edward, and they lay in the sun and he's glittering and the lion laid with the lamb, and like they don't, is that from that book? I know it's been a long time since I've read them, but sweet field trip, reminded me of Twilight. I was in it. And then they go swimming in a lake made of starlight. So I was like, there's your glitter. Skin of a killer. Oh, I put in quotes, oh, I can play a mean fiddle on the bonfire night. Before it got really like overtly like explicit as far as like what this night is about, all I could think of was like Twilight meets The Purge. And I think what made me think of that was because this night court man, I'm going to call him a night court man because I don't know who he is. He tells her something like, tonight's the one night that I can roam wherever I want in the world and no one can stop me or something. I'm probably butchering that, but I was like, is this The Purge? Like, are they all gonna murder each other? And I wasn't far off. They're not gonna murder each other. They're just gonna like get in each other. All night. I think that's pretty much caught up, so I'm gonna get back to it. And I promise my next check-in will be much sooner than later. Okay. It's been a while while since our last update, and that is because I did film them, and they weren't good. So that made me sad, so I thought I would just recap again, even though it's not quite like a raw reaction to everything. It mattered to me that, I don't know, it just wasn't going to be. I was really sick in one of the clips, and you could barely hear me, so I thought I might as well just redo it. But, okay. So much has happened. The long story short of it is that I really like the book now. I'm in it. It makes sense to me now. We love a villain, so I'm really enjoying Amarantha and Rysand. I know that most people say Rysand or Rysand, but I actually heard someone pronounce it the way that I do recently, and that felt very, like, not brush off. It felt like a pat on the back and like a hug from afar. So I call him Rysand. I'm really enjoying him. He could kill me if he wanted to, and I would not be mad about it. But Feyre, she's become more endearing to me through just her decisions and her thought processes. She feels like a much more formed person to me now. I'm under the mountain in my read-through. That's where I'm at. I'm under the mountain. There was a turning point that Heather told me was coming, and it definitely happened. Gosh, so much. I don't want to give you like a full rundown of everything that's happened, but yeah, it's so cool. Like the first half of the novel that I left off at when I last spoke to you has now been made sense of. Like everything that happens, even the confusing parts, makes sense now in light of what we learn. And I was thinking at first, I was like, how can there be like 5 books of this? I don't know how many books there are total. But I was like, I don't understand how there can be 5 or however many books of this series, because I don't know, I just couldn't see it yet. And now that I'm in the second half of this book, I can get it. I get it. I actually don't quite know where I'm at because I turn off the location thing when I'm reading on a Kindle, because I like to be blind when I read. And I just can't really pinpoint one thing that I didn't like so far. Everything makes sense now. Even the questions that I was skeptical about, or I was like, I don't like this feels like a not like a plot hole, but it felt like hard to reconcile in my head. Even those things have kind of been given more like explanation. We finally understand the curse. We know why he brought her there, and that was one of the first things I said. I was like, her answer makes sense, but I don't understand why he would offer it. Like, why is he saving the person that killed his friend? I know why now. Dang. And she's under the mountain. She is a prisoner, kind of like a really sad house guest of our lovely, stunning, evil woman, Amarantha. I really like Amarantha. I think she's a dynamic and complicated woman, which is really cool to me. Tamlin has been silent since we got there because basically the curse didn't get lifted. They did not solve the issue of the blight, and that gave Amarantha free reign to come and collect her new subjects, being Tamlin, Lucian, and the rest of his court. So Feyre sent away. Tamlin had sent Feyre away to keep her safe, but then she's made her way back to him now. There's so much more that goes on that I'm not getting into because I fall into that trap where I'm just going to start giving you a play-by-play of it, and I don't think that would be ideal. She's about to be assigned task number 2 in order to save Tamlin, and I am just really excited to see what it is. Rysand, I know he sucks, but geez, like, it's some haughty behavior, I think, to say it nicely, I guess. Yeah, I just don't mind him. You might see another update from me in this getup because I am so excited to finally finish this book. I don't know where I'm at in the novel, like I said. But now that I feel like I finally had some FaceTime with you, I can just read. And I have so many notes that I've taken over all of the chapters. I just didn't feel like relaying all of it to you because, I don't know, it's like a play-by-play of everything and kind of my thoughts on that. I guess the little taste I can give you is that as Rysand, like gives her his bargain to choose in her jail cell, I called him Butthole Bob. But then later on, when we see what he does with the summer fairy in Amarantha's throne room, I said, Butthole Bob has become complicated Carl. Because now we no longer have the luxury of simplifying him to, like, evil. He's a bit more complicated than that now. So I'm paying attention to him. Poor Tamlin. Yeah. Amarantha's pretty cool. And I like Feyre more and more now. I think she's, she's brave. I really like bravery in people. And it's not something that we think about that deeply. Not, I won't speak for you. But I feel like kind of collectively, we don't think about things like bravery that deeply. And I have been having conversations with my husband this year about bravery in particular. I feel like everyone has a fork in the road that comes up, whether it's big or small, and it's literally every day. Every day we're confronted with this little fork in the road multiple times a day. And that fork gives us the opportunity or the invitation to either be brave about a matter or to be silent and cower at it. And that is part of what makes storytelling so valuable, I think, why we can read hundreds and thousands of pages about these stories that captivate our attention, even when we know they are not in reality or, they're not true. They still resonate because the abstraction from the fictional story is a kernel of truth that holds. And that, to me, that I'm seeing in this story a lot so far is bravery, even when we don't know what we're going to confront or how we're going to fix it. One part that's really stuck out to me so far is a conversation between Alice and Feyre. That might be my favorite conversation so far in the whole novel. As Feyre's getting ready to go under the mountain and do the brave thing, Alice warns her, and she gives her all this background on stuff, but she warns her, and she gives her 3 kind of like pieces of advice and a 4th bonus, which were, normal things, but like, don't drink the wine, no deals with anyone unless death is looming, trust no one, not even Tamlin, and the 4th being, keep your ears open, listen to what you hear. And so far, Feyre's broken the rules with each of these pieces of advice. And I like that because bravery doesn't come when we follow the rules. Like, bravery has to step in when we know there are no safeguards. Like, there isn't something that we can do to modulate our behavior in order to guarantee a good outcome. She's having to be brave in spite of being compelled to drink the wine, and she's having to be brave despite having made 2 deals now under the mountain. So I'm really excited to see how this plays out, and I'll check back soon, okay? Okay. We've gotten through task 2. We've gotten through task 3. And now Feyre is on the brink of death, fighting for her life. There's so much that's happened in between all of those things. Rysand is much more complicated than we gave him credit for, which I clocked onto, which I'm happy about. And basically Amarantha is like unwilling to honor the initial bargain she promised to Feyre. And even the fairies in the surrounds are starting to get frustrated with that. And as Feyre is dying and being crushed to death, bones breaking, blood in her mouth, she starts to kind of like see the riddle reflect in her mind. And so I thought I'd read it and reveal the answer to it. And I didn't get this because I wasn't thinking about it. I probably should have thought about it more, but the riddle is, there are those who seek me a lifetime, but never we meet, and those I kiss, but who trample me beneath ungrateful feet. At times I seem to favor the clever and the fair, but I bless all those who are brave enough to dare. By large, my ministrations are soft-handed and sweet, but scorned, I become a difficult beast to defeat. For though each of my strikes lands a powerful blow, when I kill, I do it slow. And the answer to our riddle that finally comes to Feyre, and she gives an answer finally, is love. So that's where I'm at in the novel, and I am hoping that just like breaks the curse. I stopped myself from reading just to update, and now I'm going to continue reading because I'm very curious to see what comes after this. We did it. It's the next day. I did finish the book last night, but I just wanted to give myself like a good night's rest before I sat down to talk about it. I really enjoyed it, and I think I keep trying to think about like what that turning point was for me and why the story became so valuable to me. And I think I touched on it yesterday, but it was just kind of that bravery and the like absolute, not horror, but like the very real human like terror that comes with facing things, and how much that becomes an important part of stuff in the last bit of the novel. So I really, really enjoyed it. It was really good. But I said at the beginning of this reading vlog that like, wow, like it's been so long since this book came out, and I'm ready to be a part of this conversation. Somehow I've avoided knowing anything about it, which I'm actually really happy about over the last decade or so that it's been out, because my reading experience got to be just very personal, I guess, without anything to influence it. So the curse is broken, and Feyre is literally broken. She is dead. Amarantha is dead for good reason. And we see this chapter open, chapter 45, open from Rysand's perspective, which it's been like hinted at and even like put out there very clearly that they now have a connection through their deal that they've made, I guess. But this is like the most intimate that connection has become so far. She can hear him speak to her in her head. She can feel reactions in the tattoo that she has. But this is the first time that she is somewhere far away, but she can see what's going on, and she can see her own body on the floor, and it's through his eyes, we find. I think, unless I misinterpreted that. He had a brave moment at the end trying to save Feyre from being killed by Amarantha. So all the High Lords come around to contribute a seed of light towards saving her, which at one point she calls this a piece of her soul when Rysand comes to bring it. So I'm like, do they all have a piece of her soul? Like, I don't get that. But she is our Christ figure. She is sacrificed, or she sacrifices herself essentially, dies for everyone there, and then is brought to life again and made eternal. She is now High Fae as she wakes up. I don't really know if that changes her appearance or like her height or her, I don't know, like does she have like a beast form now? That'd be really funny. Okay, if you notice that, I don't know why it does that, but you know, we're just gonna go with it. She has a reunion with Tamlin. They don't talk too much about what's happened because she can't really cope with it yet. As she's brought back to life, the first thought she has is like of the death of the two fairies, the lives that she took in order to save everyone, and I think that's going to haunt her a lot in the next novel, I'm guessing. So her reunion with Tamlin, while it is very meaningful, it doesn't address everything, which I think makes sense. Like, she's so shell-shocked and like just a raw nerve probably, that it's going to take some time to cope and process. So after her reunion with Tamlin, she then goes to see Rysand as he's leaving. He tells her goodbye. They have a nice little conversation. I think they're like becoming closer now. They're definitely connected in ways that she is not connected with anyone else. I feel like he is her little secret now in her body. Not that he's a secret, but he is a secret place in her now that will continue to speak with her, I'm guessing. I don't know. They still have their deal on, so I'm guessing that will be addressed or, talked about in the next novel, and we'll get to see them interact more. I thought it was really sweet, something he says to her, because I feel like he has a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow, a lot of depth to him. She even remarks at one point, like, the fact that he loves to fly, and she never thought about that. Like, a fairy who loves to fly was trapped under the mountain for that long. And I'm like, yeah, I know there is like such depth to him. It doesn't excuse his behavior, but I'm always like a big rememberer in my head. Like, people's actions, no matter how egregious, there is always context for them. Not that it explains things away or it excuses things or it like takes away the need for consequence. Definitely not what I'm saying, but there is always context for human, well, I guess in this case, fairy behavior. So I'm interested to see more of him fleshed out in the next novel, because he's already so complicated with just the little bit of screen time we get of him so far in this first novel. So I'm really excited to see Rysand in the second one. Did I already say the quote that Rysand tells her? He says, "Be glad of your human heart, Feyre. Pity those who don't feel anything at all." And I thought that was such a sweet, real thing for him to say to her, because she can admit to him. She hasn't even talked to Tamlin about anything yet, but she can admit to Rysand so far. She's like, it'd be easier to cope with this, what I am now and what I have. It'd be so much easier to cope with it if I didn't have a human heart. Like, I may be high fae, but my heart is still human. And he's like, you should be glad of that. So that's a heartbreaking thing, but a very sweet, intimate moment that they have, I think. And I wanted to leave off about Rysand with the crazy thing that happens, which I'm sure, I don't know, I have no idea what it means, but this like was so random and it threw me off. It says, this is speaking of Rysand, his eyes locked on mine, wide and wild, and his nostrils flared. Shock, pure shock flashed across his features at whatever he saw on my face, and he stumbled back a step. Actually stumbled. "What is—" I began. But he disappeared, simply disappeared, not a shadow in sight, into the crisp air. And that is that's our last thing with Rysand. It also made me reflect on Tamlin. Like, Tamlin, this whole novel has pretty much, he's been so held back, and everything he's done has been behind a wall, so to speak, but not of his own choosing. Like, initially it was because of the curse on him. He literally could not explain things to Feyre. He had so much sacrifice he had to make, grew up under a horrible father, and even when we get to our, like, third act or whatever act of the first novel, he has to be so calculated and held back, so withheld in the first novel. So I am curious to see if we get to see more of Tamlin fleshed out in the second novel, because even he has so much like going on. Every time we got an update about him, if I sit and think about it, it's like, yeah, you could really go down a whole rabbit hole just thinking about like what he's going through, how he's having to calculate this and play this game with Amarantha breathing down his neck. So I'm curious to see him in the second novel. And after this, they go home. They close off the mountain and go home. And it's really sweet. And I like that even as it's describing how, like, joyful it is for them to see their lands again, she is not healed. She is not addressed. It mentions so many times about these two dead fairies, which I really like, because I like that she's not brushing it off, but she's also not diving headfirst into processing it. It kind of reminded me of myself in some ways. Like, if something is that hard to cope with, I definitely don't want to ignore it, and then sometimes it takes me a minute to get to processing it. Sometimes it's strictly out of a necessity that you can't process something yet. So I don't know. I thought that was a really cool way to make Feyre very human. But they go home, and then the next book. I don't even know what the next book is. Let's see. Thank you for watching. This is the end of book 1, A Court of Thorns and Roses. I really enjoyed it. I will cherish this story, I think. It's just one of those ones that's going to sit in my heart. If you want to stick around, I'm going to reveal the name of our second novel. I'm probably the only person on the planet that doesn't know what it's called. I am going to flesh out some questions, thoughts, predictions, bingo card spots. I don't know. I'm just going to flesh some ideas out about the second novel before I dive into reading that one. If you want me to do another reading vlog for that, let me know. And we can make that happen. Okay, so the second novel is called A Court of Mist and Fury. And I've just kind of spitballed off the top of my head a few things that I'm thinking about. Number 1, Rysand and Feyre's arrangement. I'm curious about how that will play out. I don't know if it's going to end up in some sort of weird triangle between her, Rysand and Tamlin. I've never read a book with that dynamic. Oh, yes, I have. Twilight. But I hear it's a thing now. Like a much bigger thing. I forget what Heather called it. Why choose? Is that a thing? Like, why choose? I feel like I've heard it talked about like that. So I'm wondering if that's going to become a thing. Or maybe Rysand's just not going to be that kind of character. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just curious about how their arrangement is going to work out. The 1 week a month. Where is Jurian? That is my second question. I know he disappeared for a reason. He's still alive, somehow. So, where is he? Tamlin. I think he's going to become more complex. I think he's been pretty flat in this first novel. Not because he is written that way, per se, but I think if we had his point of view, gosh, there'd be so much to chew on. But we haven't been given his point of view. Nor have we been given even like his, like an in-depth interpretation of his words and his actions and his background and his history and his heart and his hurts. Like all of those things, I feel like he hasn't had his moment yet. I'm guessing in the second novel, Feyre's going to have some pretty bad PTSD. How could you not? After everything that happens to her, I kind of hope that that's not skipped past, just for the sake of her own characterization, if that makes sense. Like, you can't just fairy dust and poof those things away. So I'm thinking she's going to have a pretty hard time coping with the events of book 1. King Hybern is going to be a bigger part of book 2, I'm guessing, because now he's become the new threat, I guess. And I think that all of the courts on this island they're on are going to unite now. Like, will they actually be a united set of courts? Like, all of them, I'm hoping. Is Feyre's dad actually evil? That was kind of a joke I made about how he disappears when it's time for her to go save Tamlin. He, like, disappears and doesn't say bye. I don't think it's for any bad reason, but I'm still wondering, where did he go? And I'm wondering what the family update will be. I want to know the significance of the paint that she did on those pieces. The one that kept Nesta from being glamoured. There's something to that. I don't know if it was strictly because there was a claw mark in the chunk of wood that Nesta had, and that's why she still remembers Tamlin being a beast and everything. Or if it had to do with the paint that Feyre did. I feel like the painting is going to be a significant part of her healing. I hope it's a significant part of her healing. I think we'll have a larger world, definitely. Maybe some traveling. I think Lucian will get more action in the second novel, maybe. Like, he'll have more screen time, again, like Tamlin. Like, more of a personal follow-along with their stories, whether it's from their point of view or if it's just more focus on them. I'm hoping Lucian gets more time because he has a pretty complicated family. Good lord. And my last one, I said the Summer Court High Lord, is he going to reveal the secret that Rysand protected in front of Amarantha? Because we see that he is relieved when Rysand doesn't betray this secret. But what was the secret? Oh yeah, and then there's that conversation that the Adder has with this new invisible character. Not that they are invisible, we just don't know what they look like, and they sound like a pig, like Snorty. Yeah, interested to see how book 2 pans out. Thank you so much for watching, and thanks for joining me on this long journey with this book. I am officially part of the club now, and I'm happy to be here. Okay, I will see you all in my next video. Bye!